Welcome to Felon, True Crime Podcast, Episode 6, Carly Ryan. In this, our 6th episode, we return to South Australia, capital of Adelaide, for a brutal crime that is documented as being the first of its kind in Australia. We must be careful, more than ever, what we let our hearts believe in. Solange Nicole. The artificial glow of the computer screen illuminates her face as she grins eagerly, awaiting a reply. Over the past 18 months, she has come to treasure these moments. At first, the novelty of it all was exciting, but it grew into something much more. Not so new anymore, but as equally exciting. It all started with a comment on a photo, which soon moved onto a casual online chat here and there, and then it grew into a volley of flirting, flourishing into a mutual adoration. The last time they spoke, he had called her beautiful and declared his love for her. She had sent him an invitation and was waiting for a response. In 2006, 14-year-old Carly Ryan and 18-year-old Brandon Kane met online through a popular social networking site of the time, MySpace. Carly and her mother lived in the town of Stirling in the Adelaide Hills, approximately 15 kilometres from the city centre of Adelaide. Brandon, originally from Texas in the United States, lived in Melbourne, the capital of the state of Victoria in Australia, with his adoptive father Shane. To drive from Melbourne to Adelaide, it would take around 8 hours. On a plane, roughly an hour and a half, but for the two love-struck teenagers, it seemed like a world away. From the very beginning, the two shared a common connection of mutual online friends, fashion and music. They had hit it off quickly. Before long, they were chatting online, emailing and talking on the phone on a regular basis. To Carly, Brandon was the man of her dreams, and he ticked all the boxes. He was tall, had a long dark fringe, ruffled his hair just right at the back, had a number of facial piercings, and wore dark eyeliner. The two shared a bond of a passion for music and a particular fashion that may be described by outsiders as gothic or emo. To top it off, he played guitar in a band. The terms gothic and emo typically paint a picture of dark and somber teenagers lurking in the depths of bleak, morose imagery. But Carly was described as the polar opposite. She was a fun-loving, friendly and accepting teen who was simply exploring the clothing and music of a subculture. Carly soon developed deep feelings for Brandon and made it known to him. He had told her that he felt the same. Carly relayed these feelings to her mother, Sonia. Carly and her mother were close, and Sonia was keen to hear all about the interactions between the two. Carly would smile with excitement when talking about him and dreamed of the day the two could meet in person. Sonia was cautious because Brandon was older than her, but she felt that because Carly had been so open about him, there was a limited reason to worry. She monitored her daughter's interaction with him and could see no harm in their conversations. Until this point in time, their communication was limited to online chatting and long-distance calls. Carly had seen him typing on the other end of a webcam, and he had seen her, but they both agreed that they should meet soon. When talking with friends, she could hardly contain her excitement about him, and she had shared that she wanted him to move from his home city of Melbourne to Adelaide to be with her. This was met with skepticism by one friend in particular, who felt it was a naive fantasy, because he was a few years older than her, and aside from a few glimpses on video chat, she hadn't met him in person. This was something Carly had hoped would change soon. With Carly's 15th birthday approaching, she figured it would be the perfect moment to meet Brandon in the flesh, and it was with great enthusiasm that she had sent him an invitation to attend. Unfortunately for the pair, this was not to be their time. Brandon expressed disappointment that he would be unable to attend due to being overseas. Carly was heartbroken. During Carly and Brandon's online courtship, Carly had also developed an online rapport with Brandon's father, Shane. The two had chatted and emailed each other often, Carly seeing this as a way to establish a stronger connection with Brandon. Shane was a member of the SAS, an elite Australian military unit. He was also working as a bodyguard. A fun piece of trivia that he shared with Carly during one of their chats was that he had once worked as a bodyguard for goth rocker Marilyn Manson. This was something that struck a chord with Carly, and it was a common ground that they could talk about. As an attempt to ease Carly's disappointment in him not being able to attend Carly's birthday, Brandon suggested that his father Shane could attend in his place. This would allow Shane to deliver the present Brandon had for her. Shane was planning to be in Adelaide anyway, to scout for potential rental homes for Brandon, who had informed Carly that he would be making the move over to Adelaide upon his return to Australia. Carly's mother was cautious about the suggestion of Shane's attendance at the party and felt it wouldn't be a good idea. Carly, wanting to build her bond with both Brandon and his family, begged her to reconsider, assuring her mother that Brandon's dad was a security guard and that they would get along well. Finally, Sonia agreed to allow it, with the condition that they set up a meeting at a restaurant prior to allowing him in the home. After a public meeting, Shane gained the trust of Sonia and Carly and was warmly invited into the family home to attend Carly's party on the 26th of January 2007. Shane ended up staying at the Ryan residence a number of nights following Carly's party. He had requested to extend his stay to continue to search for rental homes for Brandon. At first, it was very amicable between Shane and Carly's mother Sonia, but the pleasantries would be short-lived. Sonia started to notice the way Shane would look at Carly. He became visibly jealous if Carly spoke to a boy, but the most disturbing of his behaviour culminated with Shane being discovered by Sonia in Carly's bed, lying face down next to Carly while she slept. This escalated the situation to a confrontation between Sonia and Shane, and he was ejected from the house, returning to his home in Melbourne. When Sonia questioned her of the strange event, Carly broke down and disclosed to her that Shane had made an attempt of sexual intimacy. Sonia, in shock, sent Shane an abrupt email stating Carly's accusations and threatening to go to the police if he didn't stay away from her. Sonia received the following response.
Bitch, please. Even though you were too gutless to send that rancid email from your own account, I found yours, which wasn't very difficult. That email was so full of lies and hearsay, and I'm disgusted that someone of reasonable intelligence could believe such crap to be true. The things you called me were totally defaming, and I have forwarded the email onto my solicitor for further action. You really need to read up on defamation laws as they pertain to the internet. They are as strong as in non-electronic transmissions, and I hope for your own sake, I hope you have great insurance against lawsuits. You will need it. By the way, if Brandon and Carly wish to be together, they will. And here is the big newsflash, bitch. If they do get together, I'm quite sure Carly will be moving in with him. And sorry, but an AVO will be taken out preventing you and your wanker BF from going anywhere near the house. You lose, bitch. Oh, if your wimpy BF wishes to enter this argument, then tell him please do. I will tear him up, trust me. Anyways, I will not lower myself to your pathetic gutter standards in this email. I will leave that to you. You do it so well. Bye. Do not reply, as I have no time for reading the crap you send people.
Following this unsettling experience with Brandon's father, Sonia confiscated Carly's mobile phone and terminated her internet access from the family computer, with the hopes this would prevent her being in contact with Brandon and his sexually deviant father. This, however, would not be the case. Sonia overheard Carly a number of times on the landline phone, during which she used the name Brandon. The 19th of February, 2007. Sonia had hoped the incident of the previous month was behind them, and she tried to put it out of her mind. Life seemed to return to normal, and Carly seemed content to spend time with her friends in Adelaide. On the afternoon of the 19th, Carly set out from her home for a sleepover with a couple of friends. She told her mother they would be catching the bus to the city for the afternoon, and with a hug and a "love you mum," she was off on her way. However, they were not the friends Carly had told her mum she would be meeting. The 20th of February, 2007. The morning sun rose over Horseshoe Bay, a section of beach in Port Elliot. Port Elliot being a coastal resort town located just over an hour's drive south of Adelaide. It is known as a popular holiday destination for tourists and provides the perfect backdrop for a summer getaway. At around 6 a.m. on the morning of the 20th, a local resident of Port Elliot, out for a morning stroll on the beach, spotted something odd in a scuffed area of sand. Remnants of jewellery pieces were scattered randomly. In the vicinity of this jewellery, there appeared to be a spattering of a crimson-coloured substance, and beyond this substance, signs of something being dragged across the sand. With each new observation, a sinister scene started to play out in the mind of the walker, and their eyes soon followed lines in the sand that led to the water's edge. Not too far from this location, the lifeless body of a young woman would be found floating face down in the water. Meanwhile, as this horrific scene was unfolding, Sonia Ryan received a phone call from another local of Port Elliot, informing her that a purse had been found containing identity cards of a young woman. It belonged to Carly. Upon hearing this news, Sonia reported her missing. It wouldn't take long for authorities to be on the scene and connect the dots between the two discoveries. Sonia Ryan was called in by police to identify the body of her teenage daughter. Carly's injuries were extensive. It was a brutal attack at the hands of a monster. The 19th of February, 2007, the evening Carly went missing. Carly was last seen in the company of two males. CCTV footage placed her with the pair in a number of locations throughout the township of Port Elliot. They strolled and visited various takeaway food outlets, retail stores, and a shopping mall. The last known sighting of Carly by a witness was around 9:30 p.m, in which she was seen sitting in a circle with the same two men near the beach at Horseshoe Bay. A car with Victorian number plates was identified as being in the area. Time would soon offer an identification of the two males, and police focused their attention on the pair. On the 3rd of March, 2007, a media statement by South Australia Police documented the breakthrough friends and family of Carly needed. An extensive trail of phone calls, digital communication, and a combined investigation by the South Australia Police Major Crimes and Victorian Homicide Squad led the police in Victoria to Shane and Brandon. Police raided the home of a 48-year-old male known online and to the Ryan family as Shane. But this wasn't the only name he was known by. He was later identified in the media as Gary Francis Newman. At the time of the arrest, Newman was logged in on his computer and chatting to a 14-year-old girl in Western Australia. The name he was logged in as at the time was Brandon. It was also discovered that he had over 200 online aliases, all of which were part of a sinister plan to lull teenage girls into his trap. Gary Newman and an additional suspect, Newman's 17-year-old son, were both taken into custody. Newman would appear in Melbourne's Magistrates Court on Monday the 5th of March 2007. His son scheduled to appear in Children's Court on the same day. During these appearances, police applied for the extradition to South Australia. They were relocated to Adelaide to stand trial for the alleged murder of Carly Ryan. Initially, the media portrayed Newman and his son, who can only be referred to as SN due to a name suppression order, as acting in unison in the deception and ultimately the murder of Carly. The claim was that Newman posed as the fictitious character Shane, and his son used the alias of Brandon, gaining Carly's trust as her online boyfriend. But when the trial commenced, evidence seemed to point solely to Newman. Newman was Shane and Brandon. It was under the guise of the two names that he had schemed his way into Carly's life. Newman's son was acquitted of the crime, and a suppression order remained in place, preventing the media to mention his name or to show his face. During the trial, it was quickly determined beyond a doubt that Newman and his son were in Adelaide prior to and during the time Carly was murdered. Evidence given by Newman's ex-work colleagues in Melbourne, Sonia Ryan, Newman's eldest son, two of Newman's cellmates, and forensic examiners pieced together a damning case against him. Prior to departing for Melbourne for his first visit to see Carly for her birthday, Newman showed a work colleague a text message, claiming it was from a girl in Adelaide he had met on the internet. He then relayed in explicit sexual details what he planned to do with her. He mentioned that she was 15 or 16 years of age. Sonia Ryan's recollection of her run-in with Newman upon seeing his inappropriate interest in her daughter was recounted. This statement corroborated the previously mentioned conversation he had with fellow employees, stating his intention of his trip and offering more proof of his sexual interest in Carly. Newman's eldest son, whose name is also covered by a suppression order, but is referred to as DN, stated that his father had initially approached him to travel to Adelaide with him to, quote, fix Carly up. When he refused, he claimed that Newman took his younger brother, SN, on the trip instead. According to a statement given by DN, when his father returned from Adelaide, he had asked him, "Do they look bruised to you?" while showing him his knuckles. Newman then went on to elaborate to him, stating that he had punched Carly in the face and pushed her face into the sand. Two men that had shared a jail cell with Newman while he was on trial heard him discuss Carly on a number of occasions. The most incriminating was the claim that he'd been heard to say, "We did it," followed by, "I didn't mean to kill her." On another occasion, he'd been heard to make a joke about the difficulty of putting clothes on a dead weight. As mentioned earlier, CCTV footage and an eyewitness sighting placed Newman in the area and in the company of Carly on the day of the 19th of February. A key piece of evidence that was found at the scene, close to the scattered items of jewellery and bloodstains, included DNA collected from the tip of a latex glove. The DNA trace was identified as matching Newman's. The piece of glove matched those that Newman kept in his car. Based on the evidence given, the prosecution pieced together the following timeline of events. 18 months prior to his first trip to Adelaide, Gary Francis Newman adopted the persona of Brandon Kane. It was an alter ego to make and maintain a connection with Carly. This communication was conducted over the internet and by telephone. On the 26th of January 2007, he attended Carly's house. Following the party, he spent a number of days there, posing as Brandon's father, Shane, another fictitious person created by Newman. During his time in the Ryan household, he demonstrated a sexual interest in Carly. This was also exhibited by mobile phone calls, text messages, emails, and other internet traffic between Carly and Newman. Following his first visit to Adelaide, during which he was told to leave by Carly's mother, he continued to have contact with Carly, using the names Brandon and Shane. Using these fictitious characters, Newman lured Carly from her home to Port Elliot, using his son to pose as Brandon. At some time after 9:30 p.m, on the beach at Horseshoe Bay, Carly was raped and beaten at the hands of Newman. Newman delivering a number of blows to Carly's head, forcing her face into the ground until she breathed in sand. While she was unconscious, he dragged her and put her lifeless body into the water. Based on the location of where the initial assault took place, there was no way that the tide could have reached Carly. Even at high tide, it was nowhere near reaching where her jewellery was found, proving that Carly did not find her way to the water by accident. As mentioned during the introduction, this case was the first of its kind. Carly was the first person to be murdered by an online predator in Australia. Throughout the duration of the trial, Newman denied playing any part in Carly's death. On one occasion, in a heated outburst, he screamed in a declaration of his innocence, "You're trying to make me seem sick and perverted. You're trying to make me out like I'm some sort of predator, a sicko predator." But no matter how strongly he declared his innocence, it would not be enough to convince anyone in the courtroom, including himself. Newman, sensing the weight of the evidence piling up against him, offered a belated admission of guilt. He revealed to the judge, jury, witnesses, and the family of Carly that he was indeed responsible for her death. He elaborated that he had bashed her about the head, stood on her, suffocated her in the sand, and then dragged her unconscious body into the water, leaving her to drown. By the end of the trial, Newman's appearance and state of mind had deteriorated significantly. His hair had grown out and was a mess, and he was on suicide watch. This restricted his access to razors, resulting in unkempt facial hair. He sat shaking, a wretched shell of a man, while the verdict was announced. Guilty. Gary Francis Newman was sentenced to a minimum of 29 years in jail for the murder of 15-year-old Carly Ryan. Following her death, Carly's mother Sonia was faced with two choices: to give up and be consumed by the abyss that Gary Newman left behind, or to rise up and live in a way that would honour Carly. Sonia chose the latter. Driven by her deep love for her daughter, Sonia started the Carly Ryan Foundation. Not only does this foundation keep the memory of Carly alive, it also serves as a platform to educate young people of the potential dangers of online interactions. The foundation distributes media, runs seminars and workshops, and attends schools to promote cyber safety to those who may be vulnerable to falling victim to online predators. As well as sharing Carly's story with young people, Sonia has also developed a mobile phone app titled Thread. The following is a description of the app from the Carly Ryan Foundation website. The idea for Thread's name was inspired by a fable about trust, love, and independence. The story featured 3 players: a mother, her daughter, and the daughter's beau. The daughter's suitor lived deep inside a very dark cave. One day, the daughter asked her mother if she could visit this man. The mother did not want to stand in the way of her daughter's happiness, so she pulled a thread from the edge of her skirt and told the daughter to hold on to it as she made her way into the cave. If for whatever reason she felt in danger, she could tug on the thread and her mother would pull her from harm. Similar to this fable, the app allows the user to send an emergency signal if they are ever in danger.
In that moment, everything changed, and Carly was the first girl murdered in this country by an internet predator. And as a mother, as a parent, I don't want to see anybody have to go through that ever. I don't want to see any child have to suffer in such a way. And this is a motivation behind the work of the Carly Ryan Foundation and everything that I do every day.